Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast, The Circle of Hope. My name is Valerie Hope. I am your host, and I'm so grateful that I have these conversations with people to explore relationships and the nature of relationships that help us grow and thrive. Today, we have a special guest, and a guest whose story and our connection is actually quite varied. It's so interesting, and I don't know if common necessarily, but I think is an interesting one to tell. Here's Michael Anderson. Michael, welcome to the Circle of Hope podcast.
Oh, thank you. That was a beautiful introduction, Valerie. And thank you so much for allowing me to spend some time with you today.
Of course, but I'm not done with the intro though.
Okay.
So
Okay. Well,
Michael and I met 3 years, I want to say maybe 2 years ago.
yes.
Because Michael, you were in a workshop that I did at University of Texas at Dallas.
Yes.
And it wasn't just that you were in the workshop. Obviously, you participated. There were several of your peers in this cohort, but you stayed after the workshop and started to ask questions about public speaking and coaching. And
Yes.
so we kind of connected on that. That's something you were doing. But the thing that was interesting for me at the time was that you were was the CIO or
Deputy CTO.
Deputy CTO, Chief Technology Officer for a school district. And I was like, huh, you want to get into speaking and coaching? Interesting, especially, I don't know, my own bias, right? But stereotype of people in technology is usually the path. That's not the path that I hear the most
Right.
as a transition path. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then you and I started, communicating via email on a few occasions. And I can't remember the nature of the emails, if I was giving you some advice or something, or I can't remember exactly what all
I
came through.
remember.
Do you?
I
What
sure
was it?
do.
What do you remember about this? How we met?
So you were kind enough, which is not customary for an instructor to do, but you provided each of us with your personal email address.
Ah,
And you said to us in so many words, if there's ever anything that I can do, here's my email address.
mhm.
So I knew from looking you up after the first course or the first class that you were very sought after in the public speaking space. And I was just getting into it. And I thought that I could learn a lot from you. And it was then that you guided me to an organization that specialized in teaching speakers all of the mechanics. And that's how that transaction via email took place. You've been the awesome
Yes.
person that you are.
And you have been too. So because I knew your background, and I was also like, hey, by the way, my boyfriend's looking to get into that field. Can you help him up? Can you help him out? Or what? Which I know has never really, that you can only lead a horse to water, right?
That's right.
But but I think what's really cool though is that you went to you took a course at that particular location. So it was a
Yeah.
heroic public speaking, or we call it heroic.
Yep.
And I don't
That's
know if
it.
you saw, but they actually made an announcement that they sold the company. Michael
Oh,
and I know Michael and Amy Port, amazing humans, but the
oh,
community
just
is
the
like,
greatest folks I
oh,
think I've ever met in that space.
yes. Oh, so good. But one of the reasons I introduced you to that particular company is because the network of people in
Yeah.
in that
Yeah,
organization is phenomenal.
they were
People who are,
quality, high quality.
yes, quality, generous, right? Just like you said, I give my email and address and my email and phone number. Hey, reach out if you need something. That community is just like that, and there are people from all over the world and different
All over
industries.
the
So,
world. Yes.
oh, so good. See, we want to help each other. That's what like begets like, right?
That's it. That's it.
Um, but so talk to me a little bit more about what is it that drove you to first of all, just even reach out, because I gave everybody the same information. Not everybody reached out. And also this happens frequently, right? People network and you exchange phone, information or business cards, but not everybody follows up. So what was it that you had in your mind that had you follow through?
I think for me, so I'd been in the coaching space for a while, and I really thought that I knew my stuff. It was interesting though, watching you deal with a room full of executives, 40 executives, or up and coming executives, and the mastery with which you were able to keep all of the various tables in line, so to speak. I'm saying that very nicely. Um,
I
the
was nice when you talked.
the tactics that you use to create calm and focus for the course. There were times when there were varying opinions that were getting somewhat heated,
Mm.
and the skillfulness with which you were able to interject yourself into those conversations to equalize them and help both sides have an appreciation for what was taking place, uh, that got my attention. And I said to myself, because I'm coming in, I'm like, man, I've done this course like 5 times already. It's mandatory. I'm just checking a box. I ain't gonna learn nothing. And I was like, I got home and I told my wife, I'm like, honey, you will not believe this. She was like, what? I was like, I learned a lot today. I learned an awful lot today. And this lady is freaking phenomenal. I think I want to try to be her friend. That's
Did you
what
really say that?
I did. I did. That's what jump started this whole networking sequence of events that you and I have been able to share over
Yeah.
the last 2.5 years.
Oh, well, I'm honored. Thank you for saying all those wonderful things.
All facts.
I, I take teaching seriously. I am coaching as well. I think it's life changing. The people who have poured into me and the people who've listened to me and have challenged me have
Yes.
made me a better version of myself. And so I think it's an honor to be welcomed in the space like that and to pour into
Yes.
people and for people to receive. Right. So I think that just putting it out there that that's one of the reasons that I show up the way I show up.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. I like that.
and and I think, what your intention is to have found somebody that's doing something that you want to, you see yourself doing too, or continuing to develop in yourself. And I think, when we reach out to people, usually is because we see something that they have that we would like more of, or we want some guidance or support to, right,
Yes.
to achieve. What's interesting in this idea of building our network and circle is, like I said before, not everybody follows up. And when we follow up, it's one thing to say, hey, I found this information, but you followed through. You actually
Yes.
did the thing and
Yes.
followed up on the thing that I provided for you. So what was it that drove you to do that next step? Because we network and exchange, hey, read this books, look at this website. We do things like that, fairly common in the business world. But you went a step beyond that and actually use that information to make some decisions for your own career. What drove that?
For me, Valerie, what I hold near and dear to my heart are relationships.
Hmm.
I was very fortunate in 2002 when I first made it into the managerial ranks. I was working at a very large telecom company, and my boss and I, we were having our monthly one-on-one, and he said, "Hey, we're not going to be able to go the full distance because I got to meet with my coach." And I'm like, "This dude's a CIO and he's got a coach."
Hmm.
And so we began to, that's me talking to myself. Then I outwardly said to him, I was like, "Hey, Rick, so like, how long have you been working with a coach?" He's like, "My entire career." He said, "In fact, I have more than one coach." And
Mm-hmm.
that really got my attention. Right. So that is what birthed in me the desire to enter into the coaching space. And it was one of the things that I noticed after acquiring a coach is that I could fast track a lot of the things that I didn't know
Yeah.
by being encircled with people who had already been there and done that.
Yes.
And I think you just summed it up quite nicely a moment ago, where you said, in so many words, there's guidance and or something that that person has to offer that you might not have or may desire,
Mhm.
or maybe perhaps you just want to grow in that area. And that's what really fueled me reaching out to you, because the manner in which you carried yourself, and to your point, how you showed up in that classroom was different than any other program that I've been a part of. And I said, golly gee, if I could just get a few of nuggets from her, when I'm out doing seminars and webinars and helping out other people in the speaking space, just having some of these techniques at the ready will really give me a competitive edge. And
Mm.
again, thank you so much for sort of taking me under your wing and helping me out, because you won't remember, because you probably just naturally are a giving person. At least that's the impression I get. But there were numerous things that you shared with me after class, right?
Mm.
Because I'm that guy that comes up and waits
That's good.
patiently for all the others and then hit you with a battery of questions. You stayed and fielded a whole bunch of questions for me
Mm.
around how you became comfortable working with these types of leaders,
Mhm.
having a wide variety of personalities, and being
Mm.
able to, again, skillfully negotiate that classroom setting. So
Mm.
I think that's what was the key driver. But again, it's predicated on, I want to be her friend, right? And I know that if I can enter into a relationship, I'll have an opportunity later to return the favor.
Wow. Wow. And I did not know any of this, y'all, before our conversation here. We hadn't gone that deep, although I've now since been on your podcast, right?
Yes,
We've had a
yes,
couple of offline conversations.
yes.
But the depth that you're sharing right now, I wasn't aware of until now. So I'm grateful. I really am. I'm really honored. I want to go back to what you were saying regarding your CIO and the fact that he was receiving coaching, and that somehow, lit planted a seed for you, it sounds
Yes.
like. What was it about coaching specifically that attracted you, that drew you in? I mean, he having a coach might inspire someone to get a coach, but to become a coach, like what was it that inspired that?
Well, it's a bit of a loaded answer. I'm going to exercise brevity as best as I can.
Sure.
Um, I didn't grow up like on third base with a lot of people, right, in management, or those that find themselves doing incredibly well in life or in their careers. I come from very, very humble means, from San Bernardino, California, in a very, very tough environment, with no positive male role models, mother of a drug addict, rest her soul, a guy who was 9 years old, effectively head of house. So, as you would imagine, in a set of circumstances like that, I'm not getting all of the stuff that I need to be incredibly effective as a leader. And so, fast forward, right? I get to the armed services, they help me through trauma. I get a clean slate dealt to me. And what I'm finding, Valerie, is that I've got a lot of stuff to learn to be able to make it to my goal, which was to be at the pinnacle of some sort of IT discipline. And I didn't feel like, because of my pigment sometimes, that I got the same treatment as others. But I had to find a way to overcome that. And the manner in which that I was able to overcome that was through continuous learning,
Mm.
continuous improvement, shaking literally all of the things that I'd ever learned subconsciously and exchanging those for a positive mental mindset and information that would take me to the next milestone. So I say all that. Now I want to try to field your question. I noticed that the first 2, 3 years of my managerial career were really tough because I was trying to figure it out all on my own.
Mhm.
But when I got a coach, oh my goodness. So we met 2 times a month, and I would just like annotate in a journal all the things that I ever wanted to know. And
Mhm.
when we came together, I would showcase my homework, right? Because that was priority number one in the coaching session, making sure you're delivering on those items. But then after that, when we had our so-called free time or our Q&A, then I could go in and ask all of these questions. And just like, it was like something turned on in me. It was like, dude, you can get there way faster if you just keep a coach, and you can be a Rick in no time. And when I saw, because of the struggles that I had and the challenges, Valerie, that I had to overcome, what a coach could do,
Mhm.
I said to myself, this is something that I should probably consider,
Yeah.
given my background and all that I had to overcome, given all of the things that I am so grateful and thankful that I have achieved. I have an awful lot to offer. And then as I'm thinking about that, people are now starting to be drawn to me because my energy profile is different. And they're like, hey, we see that thus and so is going on for you. It looks like everything you're touching now is just like turning into a small form of gold. Would you consider helping me with blah, 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 soft skills, tech skills, writing skills, you name it? And I'm like, let me see how this goes, because this might be the field that I'm able to get myself really entrenched in. And what I found out is that I was a natural. What I found out is that it gave me joy to be able
Mm.
to help others. And then finally, and I think this is the probably most profound component, whereas my corporate job was a net debit on my emotional reserve that I'm issued for each day. After a coaching call, there was this serotonin uptick, there was this dopamine uptick, where it's like, whoa, where did all this extra energy come from? Why am I feeling so good? And why does it happen each time? It was as if I just run 4 miles and I
Mm.
just talked to somebody for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So I told
Because
you it
of
might
the
be a
runner's
long
high,
answer.
not because of the heart rate and the sweat.
No, no, none of that. None of
Yeah.
that. Just seeing somebody being able to break through, seeing somebody going from a state of stuck to a state of
Yeah.
unstuck,
Yeah.
having dealing with all of the cyclical processes that encase a person in procrastination, and seeing that light bulb go off for them, like, oh, this is my gateway out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just so exciting. I'm like getting like fired up just talking about it.
Like, I want more of that.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
fascinating. So interestingly, so part of it for you is that you've just had a natural affinity for helping people, right?
It's a
You've been
gift.
doing
Yes,
it and you do it in a way that not only amplifies your skills and abilities and grows them, but you see them succeed because of the guidance they're getting or the support that they receive from you. So that's a
correct.
classic. You gave a classic coaching benefits or testimonial, basically. So I appreciate
Nice.
that. I want to go back to a few things that you mentioned because someone else in the with the context that you gave about your background could easily not have pursued the education and learning and growing and really pushing themselves, right, to not only be able to accomplish and get to the pinnacle, like you mentioned, but to support other people to get to their own pinnacle. That doesn't happen all the time. So what was it that distinguished you? Like what drove you, knowing that you had the childhood that you did, to go into the military, to deal with the trauma, to get through whatever you needed to get through, to get to where you needed to be? Where does that come from?
Um, I think what I want to share there is that I have to go back and hit a point to make it all connect.
Sure.
The so my dad wasn't allowed to be in my life. That's a whole nother podcast episode, right? Right.
Okay.
And so there's this gap for male role model, there's this gap for male leadership, there's this gap for mentoring from male guidance, etc.
Mhm.
And so I learned it a different way, and the way that I learned it was like totally jacked up. Once I got into the armed services, and they noticed, because I brought with me behaviors that weren't acceptable in the Army, they say, you have two choices, Anderson. You can get yourself together and go over here and talk to this little lady every afternoon from 4:30 to 5 before you salute the flag, or we can
Mm,
send you back home. Come back tomorrow morning at 6:30 or 6:25 before we salute the flag, and
mm,
let me know what your decision is. My decision, Valerie, was I knew that I could not go back to California in the state that I was in. Truth be told, I had to go to the military to escape circumstances that were brewing there as I was going from adolescent into young adult life.
mhm,
I literally would have died if I went back.
mm,
So when you have the totality of the backdrops that I've been
mm,
sharing, um, it showcases, at least for some, there's a fighter in me.
mhm,
There's this guy inside of there endeavoring to break free from all of these shenanigans and from all of this
mm,
these negative mental mindsets.
yeah,
And I said, once I started going to the therapist, and she was able to share with me the various levels of trauma that I had been through, that I had been stuffing for X number of years. She said to me, Michael, you've got everything that you need to be whatever you want to be. It's nothing more than a decision. And when I heard that, that said to me that, you mean the moons don't have to align for me to
mm,
have this goal, this dream, this outcome? You mean good breaks don't have to just sort of manifest themselves magically in my life for me to have these dreams, these goals, these outcomes? And I just sort of sat there like, oh my gosh, I'm in control of my destiny.
yeah,
I get to select what I become, what my legacy is going to be.
mm,
I'm in firm control of that. And so, you know, when she shared that,
yeah,
Valerie, you talk about a change of mind and a change of heart. Those two organs got in alignment.
mm.
And once those two guys got in alignment, there wasn't anything that could stop me. I became limitless in terms of mental focus.
Yeah.
I did not have the soft skills. I did not have the tech skills. I did not have the managerial skills. But once I got that coach, that was all she wrote, Valerie.
Oh, that's such an, I'm sure that somebody's listening and watching this and going, I need some of this. This is great. The model and the example that you just shared, but the drive for growing, for moving beyond the circumstances of your childhood, for
Yes.
healing aspects of your life that were hindering your progress, that were hindering your vision, like all these things. It's funny. I remember years ago, someone telling me that I was here to heal what was it? I was here to heal the generational trauma of the women in my family. And I was like, wait, what? Oh, I don't
Oh, I
understand.
love that. I
That's
love
hard.
that.
That's deep.
Yes, it
Um,
is.
and it wasn't like this, obvious trauma, but when I went back and I started looking, in this case, the pattern was that from my great grandmother on both sides of the family, I believe there were single mothers. For
Yes.
whatever reason, the marriage didn't work out, the relationships didn't work out, and so they raised their children. And I could go back from my great grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, my mother's sisters, my, on my dad's side of the family, his mother, my
Oh,
grandmother,
wow.
my aunts, many of my aunts and my cousins. Like there were like a lot of people that I don't think in our family we'd ever talked about that. So I use
Right.
that particular example, but this drive to find healing, especially when it comes to like relationships. I always found like the relationship books and the therapists and the
Yes.
coaches. And I mean,
Yes.
I've done a lot of inner work with myself because I'm like, what was it that was missing? What is the gap
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
is this inherited story or conversation that keeps coming up that no one is interrupting the pattern?
Yes.
So I
Yes.
think what you're speaking to, right, different circumstances, but what you're speaking to is us identifying that there's a pattern that needs to be interrupted. There's a trajectory that needs to be, paused, stopped, moved. And it does take something to do that. Because especially in my family, I've been fortunate, at least my immediate family, where I found tons of support and everybody's, there's no one that's trying to push me back or keep me back or any of that. In my extended family, I would say the same. Everyone is like, okay, go on. But I'm curious for you, when you think about all these changes that you were making, all this healing that you were doing, what was the impact on your surrounding? You talked about your energy, what did you call it? Your energy profile shifting.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
what impact did that energy profile have with your friends and family that you may have grown up with or spent time with?
Well, this is a hard one. I might get emotional.
Hmm.
I'll do my best to contain it.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
When my family, immediate family and extended family, specifically on my side, because on my mom's side, because again, dad wasn't allowed to participate. When they saw the person that I had become, because they thought little Mike, the one that they knew before armed services, well, when I came back to visit, little Mike was gone.
Hmm.
There was no trace of him. Now there was Sergeant Anderson. Sergeant Anderson looked different. Sergeant Anderson spoke differently. His confidence profile was different. His integrity was different. His confidence was different. His continence was different. And again, his energy was radically different, so different that it made them incredibly uncomfortable. They had thought for years that, hey, these are the cards I've been dealt, and this is the way it is. And what I came back saying is, that's baloney. You do not have to be this way. This is a so I'm quoting my therapist. This is a choice that
Yeah,
you make.
yeah.
And you can make the choice to remain this way or do as I've done, something different. Oh, so you're going to come back 2 years of being in the military and preach to us? I'm like, I did not mean to come off like that. You asked me a
Mm,
question. I wanted to give you a well-fashioned answer. That was not received. That wasn't received by anyone,
mm,
not even my mother.
mm,
So looking at the other side of the coin, right? Going back to the armed services where I'm welcomed.
mm.
It was no judgment. There was absolutely no issue with this guy being as he is. In
Mm.
fact, it was encouraged because there was a small nucleus of senior leaders who understood some of the story that I've shared with you today. And they were like, hey, keep doing what you're doing, kiddo.
Mm.
You'll be thus and so. They made Army references to various positions. They didn't know that I would, only spend 10 years in the Army and then go off and do some really super cool stuff that they would have been extra, extra proud of. But it was received incredibly well there and nurtured
Yeah,
there, right?
yeah.
Because let's be honest, had it not been for a pivotal moment where it was, Michael, are you
Mhm.
going to go home or are you going to do what's needful
Yeah,
and do some self-improvement, some deep
yeah.
self-improvement? Um, I attribute that transitional phase to the armed services, I will
Mm.
forever be grateful for that chain of command that
Yeah.
put me in that situation to force me to make a life decision.
Wow.
I feel like I made the right life decision, Valerie.
It was all about be all that you can be.
Yes. Yes. I was trying
Good
not to use
motto.
that, but I'm glad you did.
My dad was in the army for 27 years.
That's
So, oh yeah,
right. That's another
we
touch
lived
point we
that.
talked about. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Fascinating. Oh, what a choice. What a choice.
Yeah.
I want to pivot now. And so we've talked a bit about the past and the trajectory that you followed to get to where you are, or where you were recently, because you've now made another significant shift in this trajectory of
Yeah.
being all you can be.
Yeah.
So now that we met when you were working as the deputy chief and technology officer, but you're
Yes.
not doing that anymore. You have gone all in into the coaching and speaking and that realm. So
Yes.
talk to us about this transition that you're in now, and as much or as little as you want to share about why you made it.
Sure. Well, so today, my wife and I, we run Your Thought Life Coaching LLC.
Oh, you and your wife both.
Yes,
I
yes,
didn't realize that. Okay.
we are a team of two plus AI. So
Yeah.
we got some little AI soldiers helping us out do some things to free up time for us. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, we have made this a mission of ours to help um, entrepreneurs, small businessmen, and women, as well as leaders to fast track their personal and professional success.
Hmm.
And so it is here now where I get that jolt or that injection of dopamine
Yeah.
every single week, working with individuals with a variety of mindset and or business issues. And I got to tell you, it is one of the most rewarding things that I thought I would ever be able to do
Hmm.
while working for myself. The second half of what you asked was, well, that would also signal that you're no longer in the corporate space. Indeed, I have
Mhm.
joined you, Valerie, in the entrepreneurial space. This is actually my third venture. My first one was doing some help desk stuff that turned into a very, very big deal. Uh, Sold that off, exited for a nice profit. 7, 8 years later, got into cybersecurity, grew that, sold it off for a nice profit, and now I'm here.
Hmm.
So, what spawned this though? 2.5 years ago, around 2020, May 2020, I lost my dad. We did some soul searching, my wife and I did, and said, hey, um, there's there's so much more to life than a 9 to 5 looking at brake lights in the morning and in the evening and sort of running our bodies ragged with elevated stress and an inappropriate balance between work and life. Let's not do that. Let's sell the big house and let's get into something very, very modest. Let's stop buying stuff where stuff is every category that you find yourself wanting of. Let's stop that immediately. And let's see how much resources we can pull together, and then let's think through where could we take those resources, um, build our own brand,
Hmm.
sort of take some of the stressors of life away, reduce work to about 20 hours, and still have a very high degree of quality time for
Yeah.
us
Yeah.
to do the things that we've always wanted to do, but didn't have the time to do because we were working 50 hours a week.
Hmm.
And about 2.5 years ago, we decided, after selling off everything and stopping all purchases, that we would move somewhere. And through a process of elimination that I won't bore you with, we have a daughter, an older daughter in California. and we have our youngest daughter, both are adults, in Texas. Mexico was about 2 hours from both of them, and we could get there the exact same day. So we went through a process of getting our temporary residency. And once we did that, then that allowed us to get RFC numbers, something like a social security number that allows us to buy, sell, and trade inside of Mexico legally with the protections of Mexico. And then we bought a home. And then over a series of months, we furnished it. And in September of 2024, we moved here permanently and have loved every minute of it.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank
I
you.
mean, the change obviously in the amount of hours that you work, right? Going from 50 to 20 hours, this idea of having this dopamine hit,
Yes,
the
yes,
serotonin that you live in
yes,
that bubble
yes,
now more
yes.
frequently. I can't imagine the trade-off could have been any better. And then the easy access that you have to seeing your daughters, I'm sure they so appreciate the thoughtfulness that went into identifying this place.
Indeed.
But we can't take for granted you moved to a different country. Is your wife from Mexico? Do you
No,
speak? No. So
no, we're both African American.
either of you speak Spanish?
We are taking classes through
Okay.
Italki.
Mm.
And
Okay.
yeah, it's not necessarily an easy language to pick up, but
Mm.
what we're told is that if we will spend time each day practicing
Yeah.
and really honing this like any other craft that we desire or discipline that we want to be accomplished in, we'll be able to
Okay.
do it. I just
Okay.
so happen to know that you learned it and
No,
you,
yo no lo aprendí. Yo nací hablando en español.
I'm not that advanced to know all of what you said,
No,
but
I'm Spanish is my first language.
oh, I did not know
Uh,
that. Sweet.
yeah, because my family, we're from Panama originally, and we immigrated
Oh,
when I
I
was
didn't know
9.
that. You
So I
sprung that
learned
on me.
English. By the time I was 10 or so, I was fairly fluent in English, at least third grade level English.
Okay. Yeah, I notice
Yeah.
sometimes that I have good days with Spanish and I have days
Yes.
where well, it's kind of like what we just experienced. I catch a word or two, but not enough to put the sentence together or to try to put it together. But again, it's been 5 months.
That's
And,
yeah,
and
very,
we
very
have a goal of being semi, if not conversational, by the end of the year. And we're just going to
easy,
keep applying ourselves and doing what
easy.
is necessary to achieve that objective.
Well, the way you've described your process and learning and pushing yourself to growing and achieving, that'll be in no time. I'm certain of
It's
it.
just a matter of time,
Um,
Valerie.
but walk us through a little bit of this shift now in culture also. And you have a home there. You've had to find a new place to go to the supermarket and a new place to, for entertainment, like all sorts of things. How do you rebuild? Or add on to your circle, your network when you have moved to a whole different culture and country.
So that is really interesting because be well, let me back up for a moment. Let's talk about culture.
Mm-hmm.
One of the key drivers for us deciding to come to Mexico was culture.
Mm.
What we learned, and our neighbors are just incredible. They have completely embraced us. In fact, so much so that if there's anything that we need, we just knock on the door and share with our broken Spanish, right? Sometimes with a translator, let's be honest,
Yeah, yeah.
what it is that we have need of, and they go out of their way to help us. I think this signals that these are incredibly good folks
Mm-hmm.
through and through. Another thing that we noticed that really drove the decision to come here was that they are family oriented. They have blocks of time every single day, not just a holiday, not just for barbecue. Every single day, they have hours blocked out for family activity. That blew our minds.
For example, what is that? What does family activity constitute? Like, what does that mean?
Which part again?
What does family activity mean? Is that like having a meal
So
together, like going to the park? Like what?
it could be any or all of the above.
Okay.
For 2 hours a day, they spend time together. This is before dinner. They do breakfast together, then they part ways to go to school, to go to work. Midday, sometimes they have a block dedicated for this. But then all of that evening, when they get off, that's family time. And Saturday and Sunday is mega family time. You are going to somebody's house, somebody is having a get together, a function, and they're bringing this, they want you to bring that. And it is just an absolute treat to see this level of collaboration at the family level. Where it's so entrenched in the day-to-day operation. You think about, I don't want to compare and contrast, that's not fair, but we had family members when we lived in Texas that were just down the street. We couldn't get together but 3 times a year.
That's a different cultural context. Yeah.
Talk about night and day difference.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I think the other thing too is this was not embraced by our family members. I'm still going to touch on the networking, but I think it's neat for folks to understand this. This decision was not embraced by lots of family members.
Your decision to move to Mexico?
Yes, correct. We were going to be killed by the cartel. It was like labeled as the most dangerous place on the earth. And there were just so much derogatory, literal, fake information, misinformation that they had grown up understanding to be the truth. And so certainly, with us being on the ground here, I don't know, at least 2 months in duration before even making a decision, we were able to challenge many of those so-called norms in their heads and get relevant facts to disprove those. It's unfortunate that even after that, some still did not support us. We concluded from all of that family will be family, loved ones will be loved ones.
Yeah.
If they want to hang on to that, that's fine. We'll just come over here and have our best life without them. So that's what we endeavor to do and have been doing. And now they're coming around since nobody has come and got us, or we don't have
We're
any,
still alive 5 months later. Okay.
no bumps and bruises or anything on our face from the cartel incidents and so forth. Just nonsense. But networking here is a challenge.
Say more.
It's a challenge. When I was in Dallas, there's all sorts of events, there's all sorts of activities specifically for networking that I can be a part of. And with the removal from that environment into this environment, it creates a dynamic where if I want to network, it sort of has to be online, right? Speaking engagements, very similar to what we're doing now, are remote. There will be times, of course, when I will go back for certain events and certain engagements, but it's not as easy here as it was there. We talk a lot about consistency in our work, Valerie, and for us to maintain the relationships now that there's this larger space between us and there's not those frequent meetups, quarterly, monthly, bi-weekly, et cetera, those executive dinners and so forth, and those seminars that are in person,
Yeah.
Now the preservation of those relationships, they get tested. And so I'm
Mm.
finding myself really having to ink time to make sure that I keep a good pulse on those that I care about, on those that are in my inner circle. And I have several different inner circles or several different networking groups,
Yeah.
depending on what we're talking about. So the idea of being intentional is full blown when you move to another country.
Oh, it's huge. Not only you're describing the distance, right, that now you have between the contacts and the network that you formed where you lived before, but
Yeah.
also now the difference in how do you get your foot in the door in a whole new culture, one where you're just learning the language, right,
Yes.
where you're, a new person trying to find their way. So if you waved a magic wand and said, "This is the kind of network that I'd like to create for my wife and I here in Mexico," what would it be? Like, what are you looking for there that would be in alignment with where you are and what you want to be doing?
I don't know that we've had an opportunity to unpack that,
Mm,
to sort of think through if we would bring our approach to fast tracking personal and professional development to this market.
mm,
Today we operate principally inside of the U.S. That's where our LLC is in the great state of Wyoming.
mhm,
So if I were to wave a magic wand and create a set of circumstances where I could reach the Mexican population, I don't know that I don't know that I can deal with that one right now, Valerie. That one is really, really loaded
Okay.
for a whole bunch of reasons. Because now I've got to restructure business. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
all of the safeguards that we think we have with the LLC have to all be reconsidered. The so-called veil and how I keep that pure and intact comes under question. Yeah, that's a good one. I'll add that to my list of things to unpack. It's really good though.
Yeah.
It's a consideration that is going to come at some point. I should have known you might bring that out.
Well, it's not to challenge anything, but since you mentioned that networking has been more difficult where you are, um, I think now I'm understanding what you see difficulty. The difficulty you're pointing to is the difficulty in distance from the network that you have already established.
See, yes.
But I was looking at, okay, so what is this new network that you're establishing currently? And it sounds like right now has been mostly social. There's some social connections that you're making with
Yes.
others, but not necessarily pursuing professional. But the thoughts that came to mind were: is there a significant expat community that you'd like to be
Ah,
connected to, or
gotcha.
is there an opportunity as you continue to work with the language to work either with people who are natives in Mexico, or perhaps be able to learn more directly from about the culture or for native speakers. So there's when we move to another country, oftentimes there's this decision that, again, more choices to make about who gets
Yeah.
included in the circle and where your affinity is. It doesn't have to be either or, but that's kind of where my mind went. Is, are you doing work with people in Mexico, or if not, how are your social circles being structured?
Okay. I
Yeah,
got you. I looked at it from a business perspective,
that
principally.
too. Yeah, that could
So
be.
that's the piece that's on hold, but for
Yeah,
sure on a social level,
yeah.
um, I believe we have equally an equal number of friends here already
Mm,
at the same emotional depth
yeah.
that we had in Texas. And that number keeps growing because relationship here is a key component across the board. It
Yes.
doesn't matter if the individuals are young, middle age, or elderly, or any of the like gaps in between those two.
Hmm.
From their absolute earliest age, this is encased
Yeah.
in their lives.
Yeah.
They are incredibly social people. So, it makes much more sense when I say, we just go next door and say, hey, Abby, we need help with a doctor. Who would you recommend? And
Mm.
she goes, grabs her phone, and then grabs my phone and punches it in for me along with a message, because she knows that my Spanish spelling might not be at the same level as hers. But absolutely, and we do from time to time, if I can be honest with you, want to speak a little English.
Of
So
course,
we're
yeah.
plugged into a number of expat groups here, because
Okay.
this is not a touristy state, the state of Querétaro. We don't
Right.
we don't
Yeah.
have like a big expat community like you would in Merida or
Mm.
PV or some of the more touristy places.
Mm.
But there's certainly enough, and we interact with them every other week.
Mm.
So we have Mexican friends and we
Yeah.
have expat friends, and we're about to eclipse our Mexican friends having a greater quantity than our
Mm.
expat friends, which was our goal from the very beginning.
Really?
Yes.
You wanted to make more friends in Mexico than you had here in the States. Why was that a goal?
No, not like that,
Oh,
Valerie. We
what?
desire to have more Mexican native friends than expat friends.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. What made that goal particularly important for you?
Some of our very first trips and us being lost in different places, trying to say left and right, like totally messed up, and people
Okay.
just springing into our aid and helping us. We're like, yeah, those are the types of people we want in our life.
Oh,
That's going
oh,
to be
that's
a
fantastic.
priority. That's going to be an absolute priority. And that's going to prevent us
Mm.
from being in one of those touristy places. We want to live with the locals. We want to hang out with the
Yeah.
locals. We want to do life like the locals.
Mm. Oh, I love that. Love that for you all. What an adventure.
It is. It
What
has
an
been.
adventure. It
It
has
really has been.
been. You're still in it.
You're right.
But you know
Yeah.
that I think your life, at least what you've shared with us, has been just a testament of always finding that bumping up against the edge of something, figuring out a way to break through right to the other side, and then
Yes,
continuing to to continue to live, be all you can be. The
that's it.
army, the army was a path, and your career in technology was a path. Now your career in developing and growing leaders is a path, and living in another culture and all of that.
Yeah.
Wow, how incredible.
Yep.
If you had advice for little Mike, you know, back years ago, who was still in San Bernardino doing whatever he was doing back then, what advice would you give him today?
The advice that I would give and do give my my up and coming cousins and nephews is that what you see every single day in your community is a very, very small slice of what real life is actually like.
Mm.
You have to move, you have to do something to get outside of your immediate community so that you build in an appreciation for life in its totality, not just what you're exposed to. And I tell them all the time, you're going to have to become uncomfortable and very, very uncomfortable with certain sets of circumstances so that you can begin to appreciate them. And the idea of you remaining just as you are, just as Auntie is, just as Uncle John is, don't look at them and say that is your fate. It does not have to be your fate.
Mm.
What's important for you to know is that the 5 people that you're doing life with the most, right? That's the sum total, right, of who you can
Will you
be,
be?
what you can become.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're at the top of the heap, then you've got to find another group where you're not at the top of the heap. So you're in a continuously growing model.
Mm.
And I'm telling them, Valerie, learn as much as you can. There is no cost for it now. When
Mm.
I wanted to know stuff back in the day, if I can just do a quick split stream, I had to go to the library.
Right.
I remember having to buy encyclopedias and
Yeah.
stuff to learn new stuff.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that.
Now
All
we
of that,
carry it in our pockets.
carry it in your pocket. You
Yeah, or our
can read it
phone,
at no
watches. Yeah.
charge. You can know anything you ever wanted to know.
Mm.
Right. So I'm telling them that what they see in their local and
Yeah.
immediate environment does not represent the truth.
It does
And I
not.
have a lot of, because it's California and because of where my family lives principally,
Yeah.
they're around a lot of knuckleheads. So
Mm.
I'm able to share my knuckleheadedness with them and show them there is an escape. There's a
Yes.
way out, and it's
Oh.
not even difficult to get out. It's
Mm.
just a decision.
Yeah. The hardest place to get out of is up here.
That's right.
The
That's right.
brain.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Ah, wonderful advice. I'm sure, well, it's welcome. Maybe not everybody will follow it, but it's
Yeah.
kind of a healing balm type of advice that anyone could take on. The thought just came to mind as we were wrapping up here. There's a gentleman that I remember watching on a podcast called The Diary of a CEO. Do you ever
Oh,
watch
I
that?
watch him all the time. I love
You
that
do?
gentleman.
Oh, I love it. The episode, he's had maybe 2 or 3 episodes with this gentleman, Mo Gawadat. Have you heard of this gentleman?
Is he
He used to work,
Indian?
no, he's Egyptian.
Okay.
Used to work for Google. He was, I think, the business something Google for many years, and now has pivoted into working and helping develop people. Especially, he's written a book called Unstressable. Really fascinating, but the conversation, I think what kind of tickles me a little bit is the conversation that you and I are having when I know you from this, you're a technology man, your career in technology, and the levels of that you got to, that you achieved within your career,
Yeah.
having a whole different conversation about humans, about, and the energy profile, the growth and development that one takes, the choices that you
Yeah.
make, right? And the reason I make that parallels, because I heard him the same way, and I'm like, wow, how does somebody that's been so involved in technology now have this completely different set of maybe different, but he's speaking a whole different language now, at least one that was not expected of him, or at least I didn't expect it of him. And then the
Right.
other piece is, I know that our technology evolves so quickly,
Oh my God.
but
Yes.
our humanity sometimes doesn't feel like it goes as fast. It takes us much longer to develop ourselves than it takes us to develop new technology. um and what you're talking about is, I think you bring the best of both worlds, right? You have
Oh, it's
experience
beautiful.
in both, and
Beautiful.
I'm so excited for what's to come, for the future, and the people that you'll be attracting to, that need your
Yes.
brand of work, and how you and your wife are there to live your best life, in the
Yes.
years of
Yes.
life that you have the energy and the time and the desire to. So, very inspiring. Thank you so much, Mike,
Good.
for being
Good.
here.
Good.
Yeah, any final words before we wrap?
um, when I think about personal development, what really comes to mind immediately is mindfulness.
Mm,
What you said at the beginning, as I was closing out my last message, was it's all in your head. And if we can just for a little while each morning dedicate a space of time, right, to mindfulness, only takes 10 to 15 minutes. We can just take
mhm,
10 to 15 minutes every day and say that that is our time
mhm,
to do mindfulness, a little bit of meditation, nothing really like super duper in the beginning, just listening for the rise and fall of the chest, getting to
Yeah.
a point where you can feel the heart beating
Yeah.
or the pulse of the of the blood moving through some vascular system, something
Mm.
very simple. And during that time, just focus on that and that alone. It creates for an individual such a level of discipline
Yeah.
that now they're able to edge their way into awareness.
Yeah.
And once they become aware of what they're thinking about
Mm.
and how they feel, it's at that point that they can insert an interrupt
Yes.
to break the cycle, right?
Mm.
And it just takes 10 to 15 minutes a day to develop this muscle. And once that muscle is developed, there is no limits to what an individual can do. And that is why I speak, as you noted,
Mm-hmm.
because of mindfulness and
Yes.
because of now EQ, but at a higher
Yeah.
level.
Yes. Oh, emotional intelligence. Man, how could I say anything after that? That's lovely. The idea of
Beautiful.
our mind, yes, and looking for that gap of awareness that we would build with the discipline. Thank you
That's
for
right.
that wonderful reminder. It's
Yes.
something that I think all of us need to know and hopefully practice as a result of hearing this conversation.
Yes. Yes. And
Ah,
yes.
so good. It's been such a joy to have you here, Michael. I so appreciate all of your wisdom, your sharing so openly your experiences, the things that you're learning, the
Yes.
challenges you're experiencing, all of the above. And I hope that you and your wife continue to have, wonderful abundance and prosperity where you are.
I
And
accept that. Thank you.
yes, receive it.
I
And all
accept
the joy
that.
that comes with having made the choices that you all have made.
Yes.
Yes, cheers to that. Thank you. For everyone that's been tuned in for this conversation, thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks for joining me on this episode of The Circle of Hope. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and share with someone in your circle. And if you're curious about the upcoming book, visit valeriehope.com for updates and extras. Until then, stay connected.